Studying abroad can indeed have a profound influence on a person's personal and professional life. With so many things to do, it's natural to feel overwhelmed and anxious. However, with some planning, individual tailored support, and guidance, this process can be simplified and streamlined. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ULTV Study Abroad 101. I'm Shefali Srivastav, Marketing and Communication Manager at University Libu. We will discuss one such tailored support that any student who's traveling abroad will need, AdmitKard, a one-stop solution for students seeking to study abroad. The company's expertise is into data-driven approach and has a comprehensive services that make it an excellent choice for students who want to pursue higher education overseas. Let us understand how AdmitKard helps students. We welcome Libu Mathew Thomas, Head of Business at AdmitKard. Welcome, Libu. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Shefali. Thank you so much for having me join this session. Looking forward to an interactive one.
Thank you so much for joining. And I believe having you today on the session on the ULTV, I believe a lot of students will get a lot of help. I have reviewed AdmitKard and there are n number of services that you guys provide. I was myself surprised that you start with, first basic question that I want to pursue my education abroad, but I'm not sure which university to go. And you help from that basic question to the end of that whole limit. Okay, I'm looking for a job maybe. You address all these questions from A to Z. You're like an Amazon for study abroad, I may say. Okay, so, but I believe still there's a lot of ambiguity around this, that what exactly AdmitKard does, what are the processes, in which part of world you guys are operational. Is it just limited to one few specific countries, or you guys cater to all across the world? So I believe, let's start with that question only. How does AdmitKard make this process easy for any student who's planning to study abroad?
Well, Shefali, to begin with, AdmitKard is here to solve a student problem. There are several overseas education consultancies across India and the globe, and everybody claims to be sending students abroad in an easy manner. Well, evidently that is not the case. And AdmitKard was set up with the intention of ensuring that we are actually solving the problem statement that every student has, and it's not an easy journey for most students. To your question, do we operate in specific regions or specific areas? Well, no. We cater to all popular study destinations that a student wants to go to. There isn't any limitation or restriction there. Through our partner networks, we are sending students to more than about 800 to 900 universities already.
Okay, great. And like what all other processes are involved? For example, as I asked, that you start from a very basic question, which university to go. So what all services does you guys cater? If you can just give some bullet points for us to understand.
Well, absolutely. The first thing that we do is we evaluate the student's profile. So a lot of times a student may come with an intention of doing a particular program in a particular country. Well, that doesn't necessarily always fit. So the most critical aspect is actually evaluating a student's profile, understanding his preferences, understanding his limitations, what works for him and what will not work for him or her. So we obviously start with that profile discussion. Okay, once we've understood the entire profile, taken into account, their budgetary, options, how they can fund their studies, all of that. Then we obviously shortlist universities for the student, based on their preferences, help them with the applications process. But that is still only half the job done. You still need to get offers from universities. You still need to, work with them on their credibility aspects. Certain countries require credibility checks to be done. We do all of that. Obviously help them with the visa, and after that as well, we are committed to the student for another 5 years. And this is something that nobody else does. Hopefully I'll discuss some of that during this session with you all.
Definitely. And 5 years, that's a very long time. Like it's like a loan that is going on, but that's not a liability in you, that's an asset. You guys add as an asset to the student's journey. And now I understand why there's a line on your website that you don't sit still unless you fulfill that dream of study abroad for any student. That's very interesting. Now, every great product has a great inception story. There's always some problem they're solving, but the person who has initiated that product, who has launched that, for example, in university living, Saurabh and Mayank, they started university living because they have been through that pain of, not finding accommodation, and then they paid hefty amount in hotels and other places, and their experience was not great. Like, what is the inception story behind AdmitKard?
Well, it's an interesting one. So AdmitKard was founded by Piyush Bhartiya and Rachit Agarwal. Both of them are IIT and IIM alumni. So they both graduated from the top engineering and B schools in India. Okay, they had a initial startup which they managed to sell off and exit before they decided to come into overseas education. At that time, it was predominantly everybody in the brick and mortar space. So you had a physical office, you had counselors, it was all face-to-face, typical 9 to 6 and all of that, and we wanted to break that paradigm. So the intention was to break that paradigm, make overseas education counseling accessible to everybody. So with that came the virtual mode, so we're sitting in one office, but we're catering to students in more than 250 cities across India now. There is no time boundedness of you got to be there 9 to 6. I can't talk to you at 8 o'clock or at 10 o'clock or a Saturday or a Sunday, and all that has just vanished. So a student who is attached to AdmitKard is able to seek advice 24/7. It doesn't matter, and it's also good for the parents because they are free on weekends, or after a certain amount of time. The way things are going, students do most of their research actually in the evenings. It's between 8 and 11. So this is where we're perhaps most active as well. So as I said, so the story is, how do we change what already exists? At AdmitKard, we don't want to do what everybody is already doing because that doesn't solve the problem. We've got to evolve, and we are an evolving enterprise.
Right. And parents, of course, they play a very important role. Everybody thinks them as the background heroes, but they're the major, I will say, investor as well. They are the major people who are investing their time and their money and everything in their child well-being. And if they are satisfied, then I think most of your work is done. So, and especially a nation parent, if I talk about, so that's a huge challenge, I must say. So if you're solving that by minimizing the boundaries with the time and weekends and others, that's a great opportunity, space. So that's great. Now, you guys have been working with n number of students. You have catered to more than 20 lakh of students, correct? So still, I believe you must have come across many students who do very common mistakes. So what kind of those common mistakes you would like to highlight in this conversation so that other aspiring students who are watching this should not repeat those mistakes?
Well, the most common mistake, okay, and this actually happens subconsciously. The most common mistake that students make is that they don't realize that they are their own individuals, that they are unique from everybody else. So most people tried and tested, mechanisms. So just because they have a friend or a relative or something who did something in a particular manner, they believe that is the right way. No two students are the same. Everybody has a different story, and sometimes students forget that. Parents also forget that. So for us, we don't look at a student as just another student. No, it is the first student because that student's story is unique from everybody else. So when somebody comes and tells us, oh, we know somebody who went to this college or to this university and did this program, and we want to do the same thing. First thing that we tell our students is that may not apply to you. You may be able to aspire for better. You may be able to look for more options. You may get more scholarships. So that is one of the biggest common mistakes that students make. Another mistake that students make is that they take the process for granted. Studying in India and studying abroad are two different things. In India, it's still the merit-based system. You have your academic scores, you apply and you get, offers. And studying abroad is a bit different. They want a more holistic student coming in. There are specific timelines. You need to adapt to those timelines. So you need to apply well in advance of the intake and not come in at the last moment, because more often than not, if you come in later, you miss. And once you miss an intake, you're almost missing a year.
True. So not taking the process for granted and identifying that they all are individuals, they have their own needs. Maybe if plan A is working well for me, that might not work for you. So it's very important. I know, I don't know if it fits this right or not, but every piece of puzzle is individual and plays a very important role. So identify, or the aspiring students, identify yourself like that. You cannot fit into the same piece where others are fitting. So that's very important to understand. And I believe, yeah, these two are very good. At least they're different from preparing and research. Taking the process for granted also is like getting your SOP written by someone else. Nobody else knows your story. You're the right person to write it. So yeah, true.
Absolutely. Every story is individual. Everybody has their own story. No two stories are the same. And what we tell our students is be honest to yourself. Because if you're honest to yourself, that's when you do the best thing for yourself.
And the counselors have gone through with n number of SOPs and other admission applications, that they can see right through it that it's a written, it's a AI generated, or you yourself have written that story. So it's very see-through to them. Let's not try to make fool of the people who are already sitting there because they have gained that experience, and actually you're just ruining your chance of a better career by doing these activities. So yeah, and trust the process, and of course take the help from the people who are expert into their domain, like AdmitKard over here with the counseling part. Now, we were discussing that you guys do from A to Z for study abroad. So what are those pre-admissions and post-admission needs that one should have a checklist with them, and will might need help with you guys, or you can help with them?
Well, in terms of a checklist, they obviously need to know what all is required for an application. What else, or what all is required to get an offer, what is required to get a visa. It's a very simple concept that we follow here. Imagine you're buying a house, okay, and you go to a builder and you're buying a house. He gives you a payment, stage-wise payment plan. He says, once this is done, I want this. Once this is done, I want this. And it's very structured. We follow a very similar system here. So when a student comes to us for the first time, in order to do the right or the correct shortlisting or identify the right courses for them, there are certain set of documents that you would require. You require their academics, your English language proficiency scores, like an IELTS, a TOEFL, a PTE, or you will require statements of purpose, you would require letters of recommendation. A lot of things are required there. So our first job is to get a student to amass all of that together, structure it, and then give it to us so that we can ensure that the applications process is smooth. Unlike in the Indian education system, okay, where you get an admit directly, in the foreign education system, you can get a conditional offer as well before you get an unconditional offer, where you get admission in principle, provided you fulfill more conditions. Now, one of the mistakes a lot of students do is that they only aim for the conditional offer, saying, let me get my conditional offer, I will read my conditions, and then I'll decide what to do next. But that only lengthens the process. And when you say lengthen the process, not by 1 or 2 days, it could take 2 months, 3 months at times. So our first intention is to ensure that a student is actually eligible for an unconditional offer, which means that even if he has to make a fee payment, we tell them in advance that this is the fee payment you need to make. This is how it works. This is what you require. So a student from day one itself, or at least once he's serious about his work, will know what to expect when, right up till the visa process. They know it in advance so that, they are well planned. It is absolutely seamless. The parents also need to know because they are financing it. So a lot of times different high commissions require very specific sponsorship notes. So parents need to know how are they going to present it? How do they offer it? So that entire journey starts at the beginning, but at each stage, it keeps on evolving. And our job is to keep the student informed at all times.
Correct. Now, these are the prerequisites if I talk about. What about the post? You mentioned that you guys stay with the same student for up to 5 years. So what are the post needs? Like once my university is done, once I'm graduate, now what's next with, AdmitKard?
Well, it starts from the time they're enrolled, right? So the moment a student is enrolled, studying abroad is expensive. A lot of times, a lot of countries allow you to work part-time. So to fulfill certain financial needs, we help our students with that. So we help them with finding part-time opportunities. They can take up research assistantship, they can take up teaching assistantships, on-campus, off-campus jobs. We help them with that to begin with. Okay, then of course throughout their journey, they need help with, let's say, accommodation, changes of accommodation, things like that. We help them with that. We help them with their bank account opening, getting credit cards, basically sorting them out completely, not just leaving it to themselves to fend for themselves. And the Indian student is a pampered student. They find it difficult to do things on their own. So helping them, giving them constant advice. When it comes to graduating, they need to network. They need to network with industries, with people. They need to find out what jobs they can get. And we help the student through that journey as well. It's through a very unique concept. Hopefully I'll get time to discuss it during this call. Okay, so we help them with mentorship, and we ensure that, that journey of networking, helping them with their jobs is taken care of. In a lot of countries, you get PSW rights, post-study work rights. So that also needs to be applied for, help them with their jobs, and we stay with them for that. So let's assume you're an undergrad student. You're studying for 3 or 4 years. Then you have another couple of years. Hence, the AdmitKard promise lasts 5 years.
I was about to ask this question only. For an undergrad, does the 5 years start from the day one they join, or does it start once they graduate? So 5 years for it. Yeah.
It's from the time they are on campus. When I say 5 years, it's at least 5 years. We hope that by then the student is well secured and is independent and basically doesn't need our help. That's what we are looking for.
It makes sense. The point is that mentioned that Indian students are more pampered. That they're not pampered in a way. They have very strict parents. If anybody non-Asian is listening, we have Asian parents are very strict. However, we always are habituated to getting things in front of us in many manners. So yeah, makes sense. And I believe the program that you were just pointing out in the previous answer was MentorX, right?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was referring to MentorX program.
Let's dive into this, because that's a very interesting product, and I believe this helps not just any aspiring student, but also the students who are onboarded with you. So let us know about MentorX, how this program works, how can one enroll in this, and what are the benefits of this?
Absolutely, Shafali. So MentorX is an AdmitKard baby. It's been nurtured out here. It is growing out here, and it's turning out to be a fantastic asset for us, for the students, for the parents, for the entire ecosystem. So what AdmitKard essentially does is that we connect students with mentors. Mentors are international students who are studying in international universities or have just graduated. Now, the reality of the fact is that most of the student counselors who are counseling students in India to study abroad have actually not been abroad. So they have not left the country. They do not know what is life in, let's say, a London or a Dublin or a Chicago, Vancouver, Munich. They don't know, and they're still giving advice. So we personally believe that such advice is compromise advice. So what we do is that at various stages during the student journey, we connect our students with mentors who are international students. So let's assume you wanted to do a master's in robotics, and you wanted to do it in the US in a particular university. We would connect you with a student who is doing a master's in robotics at that specific university. So they can get a first-hand understanding of what to expect. And these are all video recorded. It's quite amazing. So a lot of times, the mentor is actually in the robotics lab, and he's standing there and he's got a GoPro camera or something, and he's showing the students, see, this is the lab. This is how it will be. This is where you're going to be staying. This is the distance. This is how you're going to study, and all those things. Now, this advice is absolutely transparent. It's unbiased. It is true and real in every shape and form. A mentor, an international student, will always give the right advice to an international student. So it doesn't matter if a student changes his mind. Sometimes you have students who say, oh, I wanted to go there, but now that I've spoken to my mentor, I don't think that's the best fit for me, which is good. At least we are being honest and true to ourselves. So every student of AdmitKard benefits from mentorship, throughout their journey. Once they graduate and through that 5-year promise, they are also invited to be mentors to help fellow students. So it's an entire ecosystem that is built by students. It is for students. It is by students. AdmitKard just facilitates the whole thing.
Okay, okay, makes sense. So it gives a very personalized approach for any student, and vice versa. It helps the existing students also. So they need to be definitely an AdmitKard student to enroll into this program. Is there a kind of academic requirement also that they need to fulfill?
No. So if a student wants to be a part of the Mentor X program, they don't need to be an AdmitKard student only. Obviously, every AdmitKard student has the option, but there are so many students who are more than happy to come on board, and support international students. So our Mentor X team is connected with a lot of international. So we've got about almost 1,500 odd mentors now.
That's great.
So, we are constantly on the lookout for more. So let's assume I want X university and I need help with a particular faculty. An existing mentor will actually recommend another mentor. Okay, and saying that you can speak to him, he can advise on his area of study, his specialization. So it's constantly happening. So anybody who wants to contribute, anybody who wants to add value to another student's life can become a mentor. They can get in touch with us absolutely anytime.
Great. And if somebody wants to approach these mentors and they still haven't registered themselves into AdmitKard database, they can still reach out to these guys, or how about that?
Well, typically we would encourage them to register with AdmitKard so that we can profile and evaluate them. So a Mentor Connect adds value only once you have made certain decisions. Where you want to study, what are your preferences, what is the program. You need to identify your university, your area of study, your specialization.
Okay, where that profile
with the profile evaluation that we do, this comes in. If we don't have that understanding, then a Mentor Connect will lose its value because the questions are not the same. So let's assume you have a student who's got an offer. What he wants to understand is, what about the scholarships? Will I get scholarships? Will I get, help with my faculty? What about my accommodation? How soon do I need to reach? How does the registration process happen? Because you've got to then register, get your social security numbers or your BRP, things like that every country needs. So those are the questions that people have, and it's very straight, poignant questions. Get your answers, move on. Another very important thing I would want to talk about is I want to bring the parent in again. Gallup study shows that the average Indian, will seek advice from 11 different people before they buy a car. Let's assume the average cost of a car is 15 lakhs or 10 lakhs. They will still seek the advice of 11 different people before they buy a car. Education, international education, is a far bigger investment. So you can imagine the level of advice that parents will want and seek. So much rather than talk to your neighbor who may know something, parents want to engage with a mentor who knows a lot. So they have a lot of questions to ask, and it's a fantastic initiative, I believe. It started off, more as a proof of concept, and trying to figure it out. But now it's just become so good, and it is integral to what we do. So a mentor is involved everywhere.
Noted. Great. And I do have a couple of more questions with respect to this, but I'll discuss that further in conversation, because I believe there are a couple of more points that we want to cover before we ask that questions. Now, there is one thing I know you have talked about this point in all the answers. There are highlights that how AdmitKard is different from other counselors, but still, if there's any point that we have missed on covering and you want to highlight, please go ahead into that how AdmitKard is different from other counselors and other such companies who are helping out the student who are pursuing study abroad.
Well, one of the biggest problem statements that we wanted to address, and we've addressed very well, is the limitation that a human being or a counselor has when it comes to advising a student. I know people who have been student counselors for like 10 years, 12 years. I know a lot of people who call themselves experts in the domain. There's no expert. Let's put it this way. The UK has over 130 universities. The US has more than 4,000 higher education institutions, so on and so forth. You can never master this domain. It's limitless. So a lot of times people, because they are restricted in terms of their knowledge, are unable to give students the right advice. We are a technology platform also. So as much as we've got counselors who are giving that human touch, our entire counseling is the backbone is our technology. And we have developed this very fantastic tool that we call Sense, SENSE. So Sense basically means sensing a student. So we have an AI-driven system, okay, that senses what a student wants or senses what a student will want, and that forms the backbone of our counseling, which basically means that if a student with a particular profile qualifies for a particular institution, even if it is 200 or 300, we are able to know that, we are able to see that, we are able to capture that. So this ensures that we are not promoting a set of universities or a certain region because of our restricted knowledge. So our technology backbone ensures that every student gets the right advice, and with a very great sense of pride, I can say that we have in a very large way actually mastered technology and AI driven counseling, okay, which ensures that it's an equal blend of the human touch as well as artificial intelligence.
That's nice. So now I believe my point where I mentioned that AdmitKard takes more data-driven approach. Sense is that tool that helps you guys to take that data-driven approach. Noted. And is there, again, I'm coming back to same question. I'll ask that question later because I believe a lot of people will have that question. But again, I'm going to revisit a previous answer that you have already given. In fact, I believe we've spoken about the same point in MentorX program also. For example, what are student post-admission help services with respect to their career? If I talk about, how do you guys help with them with their learning opportunities? Like you mentioned, like in post-admit, you help with research, internships, part-time. So how do they avail through AdmitKard? Do you guys have partner, or is it an in-house service that you cater to them?
Well, it's predominantly an in-house service. Okay, it's piloted and driven in-house, but obviously we have people who are associated locally who are also there to help. So we are tied up with people who are in the whole space of helping people with jobs. Okay, because we got to understand what the skill requirements are in a particular country. So the student is in touch with us. We are the ones who are driving the conversation forward. But like any 360-degree business, okay, you need like-minded people, you need people with expertise, and in various parts of the world we've got people with that expertise, and more importantly, people who are actually dedicating their life and their time towards helping students. So that is at the heart of what we do. So everything, whether it is sourcing out a credit card, whether it's about getting a bank or getting a bank account, whether it's about internships, whether it's about finding jobs, even the fact that we build their profile even after they've graduated. So they've got to have a proper CV, they've got to have their LinkedIn profiles in order. How do they present themselves to prospective companies? How do they align themselves with companies? For everything, we have a solution. Okay, as I said, it's driven in-house, but we do have a lot of people strategically positioned to help us.
Right. So it's a proper hand-holding for any student who is, especially for an undergrad, because they're very young and they go abroad for study. So it's a proper hand-holding for them, but keeping in mind that you guys become independent on your own. This is just support that is there for you, not something which will act as a negative point for you. So cool, makes sense. I didn't realize that we're almost done with our time, but I still have two questions, a couple of questions, and I believe this next question would be very much interested. And you have given a couple of advices throughout the show, but still, what advice would you like to share with students? And it's very important because there are many challenges, but again, every challenge may be vary for every student. So what are few common challenges that every student needs to be prepared, regardless that they're flying to UK, Australia, Canada, or Ireland? What are those challenges that you want to highlight? And what is that advice that you think will keep the student boat afloat?
Well, let me start with the advice first. The advice is dream. Dream. If you want quality education, you will have it. Okay, that is the advice. Then this is, I'm talking 2 decades ago now, when I wanted to do my undergraduate studies abroad, I actually wanted to do it. And my father, God bless him, he's a loving man, okay, told me point blank that he could not afford it. He just could not afford it. Today, even with limited resources, people can afford it. The economy allows you to do it. The banking system allows you to do it. So, you don't have to pay everything, out of pocket. So if you have a will, and if you really want it, you can study abroad. So that's the first advice that I would give anybody. Just dream, and it is possible. You can go and get quality education irrespective of your background, and particularly your economic background. A lot of people are hesitant because they may not come from, upper middle class, so-called society, or their parents may have limitations. Everything can be worked out. Everything can be worked out. So that is essentially the advice that I would want to give any student who wants to study abroad. Don't lose hope in any fashion. In terms of certain things that they need to keep in mind, one thing that I've realized is that you need to be very organized. Okay, and if you're organized, then everything gets taken care of. I'll give you a very simple example. We come from a culture where we have multiple names. Okay, so my name is Libu Mathew Thomas. It is 3. Okay, you have in a lot of cases, especially let's assume from the southern part of India. Let's assume you're from Hyderabad. Okay, you may have a name that is Y.S. Reddy. Okay, somewhere it would be Yellappa S. Reddy. Somewhere it'll be Yellappa Sangam Reddy. Your names are different, for example. Okay, so in your 10th standard mark sheet, it'll be different. In your 12th standard mark sheet, it'll be different. In your graduation mark sheet, it'll be different. And all of that can cause complications later because it's international study. Your name has to be the same everywhere as per your passport, your birth certificate, all of that. Everything needs to be consistent. The best way to have this consistency is if you are organized in every fashion. You got to be particular. You got to have an eye for detail. So any student who's watching this, first thing you must do, go and check your names everywhere. And you will be surprised. It is different for most people. Okay, most people have a problem because somewhere something was spelled wrong or rearranged in a different manner. Father's name first, mother's name second, something like that. It always happens. So be organized. Okay, be particular. Look at everything. Do not assume that things will happen. As a student, you need to make it happen. So, I mean, that's perhaps the best thing that I can tell anybody.
True. This is the first advice that I've received so far, and I've done so many ULTV and student diaries so far. But checking on the name, and it's very evident that, of course, full name, and in fact, in our Indian society, we talk about all the documents that we have in for the college and everything. We need to ensure that we have the correct name with us, and it's throughout the documents. But cross-checking it right now, like, that's a very good advice. I'll say that every time I discover something new in every show. So that's a great advice. And of course, as you mentioned, if you have a dream, if you have will, like, if my word is like will, if you have will, you'll make the path. And trust me, it is so easy now. We have n number of opportunities. We have n number of, sources available to fund your education. If definitely the education overseas is a little costlier, but that does not need to be a hindrance in your dream. So as
I just want to add one more thing to that.
Yeah, sure.
As we spoke about, financial aid, financial assistance, at AdmitKard, we've got this fantastic finance assistance team that we have. So any student who wants to study abroad, we have financial experts in-house, okay, who will assess the profile and will get them connected with nationalized banks, private banks, NBFCs, including international lenders, like Prodigy and Empire, things like that. So all we need is somebody with good intent. If you've got good intent, we will find a way to offer what is best for you.
Right. And I will add to this. I like at university living also, we identified that there's always a good intent. So we have also started doing scholarship last year also we did. And this year also you need to follow our page and you'll get more information about it. So there are n number of hands to help you out. You just need to, you know, make your hand forward and there must be one hand to grab it and take you out of that hole where you are. So just keep that faith in yourself, trust the process, dream, and let's move forward then. Now, that question that I wanted to ask, which I believe a lot of viewers will have because you have such amazing services and offerings for the student. What is the cost to avail AdmitKard services? And is there any kind of cancellation fee with the respect if there's a student differs or canceling in visa and all that?
There's no cost. It's free. Okay, it's for the student. So there is no hidden cost. It is absolutely free. If you want to seek advice from us, we don't charge anything. I only need 5 minutes of your time. That's all. The cost is 5 minutes.
The cost is your time and your, of course, your diligence that you need to be very much sincere with the work, right?
I need 5 minutes. That is your cost. If you can spend 5 minutes, fill up a basic form that gives us information about you so that when we talk to you, we know who we are talking to. I don't want to be talking to Shefali only. I want to be talking to Shefali who wants to study something somewhere. So it's a better conversation. It saves your time. So all I require is 5 minutes of your time. It's a free service. In case you need help with your English language proficiency, we then, of course, help you with your coaching and training. That, of course, comes at a very, very minimal cost. Let me put it this way. It is 0.01% of what you may expect to pay in tuition fee. It's negligible. So there are other package services as well in case you want to build your profile and all of that. Okay, but that is bespoke. The point is, if you want great unadulterated advice, it comes absolutely free of cost.
So that one first step that one needs to take, you have to just take that AdmitKard is there and they don't charge you against that first step. And of course, it's very important to have a funnel approach. Of course, the profile evaluation will help you identify if the course that you've selected or the university you've selected will work for you or not. But at least have that clarity in mind that, okay, I want to go for this course or maybe for this university, but going this with blank mind that, okay, I just want to go abroad. That will not result into a fruitful way, I'll say, because you are not very much sincere. You haven't put research, you haven't done any kind of planning, which Libby was talking about, that you need to be organized, you need to plan a little bit. It's important to know yourself a little bit, which course you are good in or your interest is into it. Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's a too good to be a deal. To be honest, it's free, guys. Just go and fill that form if you are an aspiring student and want to study abroad. So now, thank you so much, Libu, for joining us. We had a great session. I am very much curious to know more about a couple of more services, but I think we'll do another session pretty soon where we can talk more about it, maybe Mentorix. And by that time, if you guys launch any other new service, happy to address that also. Now, before we do any kind of final advice, I know I've asked many advice from you, but any advice, 2 cents of wisdom for the students?
Well, besides what I've already said, be ahead of the game, guys. If you're planning to study abroad, you need to plan a little early in the life cycle, a little bit more in advance. So let's assume you plan to do your master's. Okay, in your second year itself of your graduation, or in your penultimate year, if you're doing a 4 years bachelor's degree, then in your third year, you should already have decided that this is what I want to do. So it gives you enough time, everything is organized. Universities have got cutoff dates. It could be well in advance. You need to prepare for certain exams at times. So you need to do a GRE or a GMAT. There are limited days. It doesn't happen every time. If you're going for your undergrad studies, let's say you're going to the US, you may need a SAT score. Not all universities ask for a SAT score. It is waived in many universities, but it helps you with scholarships. So you need to go for your prep. You need to give your exams, submit your scores. So don't keep anything to the end. Okay. come in early, get yourself sorted out early so that the process is very, very simple. The average time is about 8 to 9 months. So if you start early, your journey will be smooth.
Right. It's important to start early. We always talk about the same thing. And being ahead, take one step at a time and stay focused to your goal is the key to reach to any place in the world that you have dreamed of course. Not that you don't plan anything, but that you have dreamed of. So on this note, we'll be closing our session. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found it useful. Looking forward to seeing you guys next Friday at 5 p.m. on our ULTV Study Abroad 101. Stay tuned to our social media handles for more information. Thank you so much, Libu, for joining us again.
Thank you so much, Shefali. It's been an absolute pleasure. God bless your work. You're reaching out to a lot of students, which is good. And I'm very happy to help and contribute whenever you need my time.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely reach out. Thank you.